Today we're having a look at one of the weekly tournament grand finals. What I've got for you today is a best of 5 of Protoss versus Terran. We're in the top right hand corner in game number 1. Playing with the blue Protoss species, we have none other than MaxPax and his opponent down in the bottom left, already giving the GLHF. We're looking at ByuN's main command center. You know what I realized? For a little while, I kind of thought that MaxPax was never gonna give the GLHF to his opponent. But I believe he does it right before the game begins. So when you start a StarCraft match, there's always like a 3-second countdown, and that GLHF period is not included in the replay file, because MaxPax never gives the GLHF otherwise. It's a little bit funky because everybody always gives it to him. I'm fairly certain he just does it before the game technically starts. Anyways, doesn't really matter all too much. You can be as bad-mannered, well, okay, there is certainly a limit, but you can be a little bit bad-mannered as far as that goes. We're starting off on Killer's Mile. So this is the Wardy TV Monday or weekly Monday weekly tournament. I'm not exactly sure on the tournament name, but it's a $400 event. And generally speaking, well, these two players, they sign up for every single one of them. Both ByuN, MaxPax, Clem, there's a bunch of players that, well, basically sign up for everything. And, well, that's one of the main reasons too, that I get to cast quite a few of their games. Sadly for us, some of the other players that a lot of people are very interested in, like for example, the Serals of this world, right? He doesn't really play in any smaller online tournaments at all. Anyways, for now, we've got ourselves a cheeky little engineering way block. Apparently MaxPax is not going to respond by making a very quick Zealot to try and shut that down. Uses a bunch of probes for it instead. NGB got cancelled and then a Nexus does begin. Problem here, of course, for Terran is, yeah, you delay the expansion for the Protoss there, which is very nice, and I guess it's a little bit annoying. But at the same time, you also delay your own command center. So you've successfully delayed your opponent, but you've also successfully delayed yourself. And it's one of the reasons why we don't generally see this all too often at the highest level. Especially somebody like MaxPax, I don't think he's going to be bothered by it at all. At least you shouldn't be, because this is something you play against time and time again. Was that an advertisement for the iPistol? Oh yeah, look at that. Right next to Alan's karaoke bar. Fantastic. We are on Killer's Mile. One of the maps from the Team Liquid map contest. I think this should be a fun matchup, by the way, because both of these players are extremely aggressive. Usually MaxPax will start juggling some Stalkers as soon as he has the opportunity. ByuN, of course, is somebody who will send everything that he's got across the map. Especially once he gets Medevacs out. My theory is that his hands start itching as soon as there's a Medevac out on the screen. And we will have one within about a minute or so, it seems. Cheeky little Widowmine start, not bad whatsoever. Okay, gets another probe over here. Is he gonna go out though? That's the question. It is gonna start healing again real soon. But I think that is gonna be the end. Ooh, as he falls off of the platform that Killer's Mile is apparently built on. Alright, single little adept right now on top of the high ground on the other side of the map, scouting out everything that's going on. So MaxPax losing a probe, but gaining a Reaper. He now gets to do whatever he likes. What he likes to do though is go for the good old blink. Twilight Council was produced and it was also seen by ByuN, so this can't really be much of a surprise. Broadly speaking, in this matchup, there's two ways that Protoss players like to start off. Either it's the Twilight Council or it's the Stargate. Now, both of those strats do have a bit of variety. MaxPax is a big fan of the triple gateway Blinky boys. So we do have an adept now going down as well as a bunch of Marines. Stalker, though, is going to be pushed away. Medevac right now sneaks out. MaxPax probably just barely not having vision of it, but he can anticipate what the next move is going to be, because this is something that ByuN always does. At the very least, ByuN will... In most of the games, right, he hasn't shown a Cyclone. He likes going Cyclone in this matchup too, but if he doesn't go Cyclone, I guess it is fair that he is going to go for some sort of Medevac shenanigans. Indeed, MaxPax is already waiting for it. Even though he hasn't seen what's up, he's going to be able to shut this down with relative ease. Now, what's kind of nice is to just sort of keep the Medevac around. Hang it off in the corner, or right over here, out of line of sight. Go in as soon as Protoss is preoccupied on the other side of the map with their Blink Stalker control. This is something, again, though, that's quite common. And because of it, top-level Protoss players have a ton of experience against it, too. So Even though they would love to be able to pin an eye to the minimap the entire time, even while they are being aggressive. There's actually a bit of variety here from Max. So it is a triple gateway opener, like what he usually does. He will be following it up with a third Nexus as well. But this is a pretty quick Robo Bay right now, together with a Forge. So he is making the transition towards a more macro-focused army. Using the Blinky Boys here, it seems, just defensively. He doesn't want to show that he's got Blink. Okay, well now he does. Cheeky little move. Keeps all of the Stalkers around, loses 2 probes. Easy cleanup here. There is also a Raven hanging out in the dead space. Now, there's not really a whole lot of dead space here on Killer's Mile. In general, not a lot of positions for the Raven to hide. Either way, ByuN has had enough. He is going to be sending this group of units across the map. It is before any of those real researches are done, though, and there is an observer here that probably did spot the move out. Auto turret gets dropped out in the back of the natural expansion. Stalkers are now in the middle of the map, ready to dance. A little bit late on one of the Blink, or one of the Blink Stalkers. He loses one of them. Already, though, there is a sentry nearby. Some force fields could be nice, but really anything to force this army to slow down is going to be favoring the Protoss. Any siege up right now with this Terran army is going to be better, as it's buying time for Big Daddy Colossus. There he is. No ranged on this unit just yet. Oh, he's feeling like he can just face this hat on. I find this a little bit ambitious, but he decides to blink a couple of the units outside of the bubble just to try and mitigate as much of that splash damage as possible, but this was way too ambitious. I'm really not sure why we decided to go that far forward. Don't lose everything, though. Does get the Raven here. That's nice. Walking into a sieged up army is pretty much always the worst thing you can do. MaxPax did it so confidently that I was thinking maybe it's not the absolute end of the world, but... Well, he's still got some decent value there, just using a lot of his Stalkers up. Stim at this point is, of course, finished. Charge is also done. Usually, that is what the Protoss players wait for. So when you get charged on the Zealots, then suddenly these type of positions in the middle of the map are very easy to clean up. More Colossi, though, are coming out. Third command center has started building here, too, as both players have taken a little bit of damage, but nothing all too critical. Losing the Raven actually kind of sucks. I really don't think the Raven needed to be there. Maybe ByuN also not quite expecting his opponent there to move down to the low ground. Quick little all-army hotkey or something along those lines. All-army hotkey, both a blessing as well as a curse. It's amazing in the right situation, but 9 out of 10 times, it is actually not quite the optimal way to move around your army. A lot of Koreans actually love using it. I don't really see a lot of the Europeans use it all too frequently. It's very handy for, like, for example, some Protoss builds when you're opening up mass Phoenixes. It's really nice to hit the all-army hotkey and then select at the bottom of the screen all of the Phoenixes to then recreate the hotkey group. This is a nice drop, though, from ByuN. Coming in clutch. Getting the armor, or the attack, rather, cancelled here. Ooh, nice force fields. Trying to save some of those units. A lot of units do get burned. Okay, losing the Forge there sucks, though, for Max. He was just a few seconds away from finishing that upgrade. A couple Stalkers, though, trying to hunt this down. I love this. Targeting the Medevac. So it's unlikely that those units are going to be able to, well, at least fly back home. But they are going to get revenge on the leftover Stalkers here. Okay. So since this is a game, right, where everything is slowing down a little bit, getting an upgrade snipe like that is absolutely massive. Because the armies will grow a lot more, there will also be way more units here that will benefit from those upgrades. So for Protoss, the Forge researches are for every single ground unit here. So this is +1 damage, basically, for every single unit that you see on your screen right here. Now, some of those units do benefit from those upgrades for more than just +1 damage, but it is significant. When you only have like 10 Stalkers, it's not the end of the world. But when you have a like a 60-ish army supply here, losing the upgrade does certainly dull your units a little bit. Well, there is a prism going around the site. MaxPax's signature move, he loves doing this sort of thing. Yep, already ByuN is running on over. Distraction with the main army at the front, so the Zealots in the main base can be a bit of a nuisance. He could recall if he wants to save it. He's gonna try and see if he can fly away. Still busy microing over here too. This ramp on Killer's Mile is always a funky one. Oh, he's hunting the low HP army. Okay. Yeah, this ramp over here is always a tricky one. We've seen a lot of armies stumble against these debris here. Killing them is not that easy, but it's not very straightforward to go around the site here. Okay. In the meantime, the 4th Nexus is done over at the 3 o'clock position. 4th Command Center has begun here as well for the Terran player, so everything's looking quite good. I'm liking this position, I guess, a little bit better for ByuN, mostly because of the fact that he just hasn't really been messed with as much. He has started up the extra upgrades, and obviously his opponent has been delayed in that department. Because of that, MaxPax is now gone for double Forge. The problem, of course, though, for Terrans later on is that you do have to deal with a much more complicated Protoss army. Early on, it's Stalkers and Zealots. Those are pretty easy to manage, but as time goes by, you do start dealing with all of those different sources of splash damage that Protoss has access to. And after the Colossus, High Templar with Storm is going to be the next one. Now, I do see a Ghost Academy inside of the main base. As far as I can tell, there are no ghosts out just yet. And ByuN certainly needs to start making those. It's a bit of a no-brainer, actually. Like, if you take one of the big storms to the face and you just don't know that it's happening... Okay, there's a ghost, but he currently hit a small little supply block. When you don't pay attention to it, suddenly a group of High Templar can decimate your army. They need to be respected. Second NG Bay as well here for ByuN, of course. Continue the upgrades. 4th Command Center flies on over all the way towards the 9 o'clock position. So I guess these bases are as far apart as you can be. 5th base, though, will be taken over here in the middle of the map. Quote-unquote middle of the map. Technically speaking, I guess this over here is the middle of the map, but... it's the middlest base. I believe that's correct English. The mostest, middlestest base. There you go. Planetary Fort is coming up. Already, there's some units waiting on the high ground. Stalkers, though, did see it coming in. Okay, Planetary is going to finish up for whatever Zealot group comes in next. Fusion Core coming up for Ranged Liberators too, and probably for the Medevac energy upgrade. Dark Shrine is building for MaxPax. So, we're settling in for a really lovely start of this series. Both players just trying to make as big an army as possible, as complicated an army as possible, to really properly deal with the opponent's troops. Lots of economy though, so losing a War Prism over here is not the end of the world. Still, this is the type of game that can be over in a heartbeat. That's a lot of Colossi, by the way. A lot of Protoss players lately have been going like 4 or 5 Colossi, no problem. Where's the Storms? There we go. EMP is also very useful, but not a whole lot of them used just yet, although we have a couple of them blanketing the army. Vikings are working away at the Colossi. That's the 3rd one going down, and MaxPax's army just got absolutely wiped off the map. Those storms were very late to start. Now there is a Templar waiting on the high ground. The weather forecast says that it's stormy. Okay, has to run away. Snipey? Okay. Yeah, brilliant fight there for ByuN. He saw an opportunity and he grabbed it with both hands. Range now coming up for Libs. And Liberators are going to be incredibly difficult here for MaxPax to deal with. He decides to now go for every Protoss player's favorite comeback unit. He's gonna go into the Disruptors. And he's already got the Dark Shrine done too. I mean, this is not a comfortable spot anymore for Max, but also not one where it's the end of the game. Disruptors can change the tide of battle, but he's doing it against Micro Jackson himself. Another storm coming in around this site now. Okay. Splash damage is starting to hurt. MaxPax still sitting. Ooh, he could have done it. What? I feel like he actually turned around right there when he didn't need to. The Disruptor there could have taken out about half of that army. Okay, interesting. Anyways, he's still got 91 workers. So he's able to now transition from that. Oh, that's a big one. Oh, no, he just barely does not get the detonation. In the meantime, though, the Psy Storm does soften up the majority of the units. Another big Nova tries to at least land on top of that Terran army, but ByuN, he just barely stays alive by the skin of his teeth for like the 4th time in this particular game. Still though, the reinforcements here from MaxPax are just coming out at such an epic rate. Liberators are here. Not a lot of anti-air, but the Stalkers decide to just blink behind them, and He targets every single one of them down, and suddenly the supply count is pretty much dead even once again. Okay, ByuN's scans. He knows that this base is not going to be next, so that has to mean the expansion is indeed taken south of the 4th nexus of MaxPax. In the meantime, he is flying his base towards the middle. This will be quite a difficult one to take. So MaxPax has transitioned from like this full robo facility style to like a full gateway style, and then once more back to a lot of robo facility production. Generally, you don't play this with nearly 100 workers. He's got 97 probes. 97 probes is actually, I mean, I'm inclined to say too many. But if you keep trading like this, it's actually fine. Like, economically, look. He's been doing just fine. Most of these peaks and valleys are coming from all of the mules mining out. Oh, Zealot's taking a lot of splash damage here. Liberators, though. Dude, Liberators kill basically everything here. There is no reliable anti-air for MaxPax other than the Stalker. Alternatively, Protoss can go into Tempests, but if you're already kind of behind in that tech, making the transition towards the Tempest now is pretty much impossible. So Max will probably double down on the Stalkers instead, but it's never really going to be a cost-effective trade. Then again, he can make an awful lot of them, and they are going to be properly upgraded, although I would also love to see the +3 attack started up for those ground units. The secondary fort sleeping on the job a little bit. One of the Colossi, pretending that there's a Viper nearby, for some reason decided to get yoinked forward. Shadows tried researching. That is the Blink research for Dark Templar. As far as I know, we haven't seen any DTs yet. But MaxPax is certainly not out of this game. As a matter of fact, I'm liking his position more and more, despite taking some pretty uncharacteristic fights, right? There's a couple of sloppy engagements that made this game the way that it is right now. ByuN, though, having a hard time really staying up to date with everything. All of those Vikings are working away at the Colossi. It just takes them such a long time to actually get it done. MaxPax reinforces this with an additional 13 Zealots. I think he's about ready to basically suddenly warp in a dozen Dark Templar and then send them across the map. Planetaries like this, I mean, they can die in a heartbeat. It's difficult for Terran to keep their eyes on these armies, especially when you're trying to dodge all of the splash damage here. A sudden warp in of Dark Templar can actually be a disaster. Planetary fortresses cannot fly. And I'm assuming that's probably where MaxPax wants to head next. Although maybe he's just going to try and brute force his army up towards the high ground. I don't think that's the way, though. Viking is going to be able to get the final shot there on the low HP Colossus. The secondary one over there goes down too. And I believe if he gets one more volley, that'll be the end of all of those Colossi. New ones, though, aren't going to come up. +3 did begin. Liberator production. Okay, still ongoing, too. Slowly but surely, MaxPax is chipping away against this Terran army. And you can tell that with his economy, he can very quickly remax it. ByuN is certainly not out of cash. Oh, but he is caught out of position here as he's trying to see if he can go around the site. Liberation zones, though, are so incredibly powerful. But MaxPax is not really respecting them very much just yet. Just more Zealots. Just more Zealots. More Colossi, more Zealots. That's all we make. If he can somehow, some way kill this planetary, that would be huge. Still, though, a lot of HP and obviously mass repair needs to be taken into consideration, too. An absolute bloodbath right here as Protoss keeps on trying to move up towards the high ground. Usually fighting up a ramp like that is a garbage idea. I don't recommend it. But MaxPax getting a surprising amount of value here, microing his units very nicely. There's another ramp, though, leading up towards the natural. He decides to move up there again, too, but a little overly ambitious, as we do now see a transition towards the Stargate. So he wants to make a move up towards something a little bit more sustainable, because he's recognized that those Liberators and Vikings are just slowly tearing him apart. Nice hold right there from ByuN. Critical hold as well, because if this planetary falls, I think, well, the rest of his bases will follow shortly after. He is now running out of cash, though, in the main base. Yeah, it's already out. Natural expansion not too far away either. So he needs to secure another expansion here soon. He's got a lot of SCVs without a job at the moment. MaxPax doesn't really have that problem. He's been making expansions all over the map. Not actually prioritizing a lot of gas. Mostly just prioritizing minerals. And yeah, it's giving him Well, look at the amount of mineral difference here. The mineral income difference is massive. It means a lot of zealots, but man, do you really want to have 1 million zealots? I guess if you can charge them through the liberation zones onto the Terran army, it's not so bad, but ghosts with EMP are extremely good. High Templar does not quite get the storm off before dying. Okay. What a fight. Banger of a game to start the series off with. He decides to go for, oh, it's just for the one Liberator. He'd made a Stargate just to make one Phoenix to deal with the Liberator that's hitting his mineral lines from the back. Zealots once more charging through everything. Liberators once more, though, in the middle of the fight do end up going down. MaxPax doesn't want to overextend again, so he decides to move his army back. Liberator over here denied. Liberator up north also denied. Okay. You often hear people say that Zealots are by far the weakest, right? If you compare them to Marines and, for example, to Zerglings as well. They just don't seem to have as much utility. Well, MaxPax is getting an awful lot of value out of those bad boys so far in this particular game. Oh my god, those force fields are really good. Oh, Big Nova! Still though, the Terran army is just trading so effectively. Okay, my main concern, even though the Terran army is trading very nicely, is that ByuN is not gonna have a lot of income. He needs another base. Like, he needed another base a minute ago. Now he's finally starting to make a move for the expansion over here at the bottom, but he must be oversaturated pretty hard. Yeah, so 28 out of 16 over here, 15 out of 8 over here. We have only 2 very skinny mineral fields remaining over at the third. He needs to get another base up real soon, because even though he had some mules mining there, giving him a temporary lead, MaxPax is still gaining about 10 zealots more a minute, right? Because that's the currency we're really speaking in this particular game. He's lost 157 of them. That's a lot of zealots. That is a lot of zealots. It's interesting to see ghosts and liberators basically get torn apart by mostly zealot armies. It's kind of like, I don't know, killing brute lords with marines. Works surprisingly well. Anyway, this is another way, I guess, to try and get that economic lead once more. Take down one of the bases of the opponent. So rather than fighting in the middle of the map again, he's decided to go around the long way. So there is now a new expansion building in the far bottom right. That's where those probes are headed, and the sensor tower will certainly show what's going on. Still though, ByuN's army is being chased away, and he's way out of position now compared to where he was earlier. Having a hard time going back home, but the Liberators once more securing at least, yeah, I don't want to call it safe passage, but a passage back up to the safety of the planetary. This planetary, man, it needs to be promoted. I don't know if there's like somebody piloting the planetary, but it needs to get a higher rank. This thing has been a full anchor now. Liberators coming in, Bio Army coming around the site, Stalkers blink away. An absolute massacre here in game number 1 though. Both players losing quite a few precious units throughout this match. Another good storm. Zealots charging through once more. Here come the Liberators. Are there enough Zealots, though, to just kill out the entirety of the Bio Army? Well, a bunch of the Zealots are working away at just a single Marauder there at the bottom. Vikings do finish the job, and that's another Colossus going down. That is now 12 Colossi. 12 dead Colossi in a single game. And MaxPax is making more. Long distance mining the base up north. Okay, well, a new nexus will be planted. Planetary fortress in the meantime down south. ByuN's trying to see if he can maybe get a securing of the kill here on the high ground. Denying this base with a Liberator alone is already quite good. ByuN honestly still is not able to find a proper way to mine out with all of his workers, even though he's only got 71. Stalkers coming back. They were, I think, on Liberator duty. Big EMPs blanketing all of the Protoss units, trying to soften every single one of them up. ByuN once more has grabbed the supply advantage. Liberator going around the site. MaxPax doesn't really want to be fully maxed out at this point either, if he can't warp in any units to try and deal in with those Liberators. Keeping a bit of supply in the bank, not a terrible idea. Okay, Colossi once more getting targeted down as the Marauders get on top of them this time around. GG gets cold. Ultimately, it's the Terran player who obtains the victory in game number 1. Okay. Pa-pa-pa-da-da-pa-pa. Next up, we find ourselves on Amygdala. Brilliant game number 1. A little bit messy from the both of them, sure. But honestly, those games are very difficult to play out cleanly. It's much easier to control your army when you have like 10 units than when you have about 100. And obviously in the late game for both Terran and Protoss, and also for Zerg for that matter, you do need a whole lot of hotkeys just to be able to control everything half decently. Now, this was... I fast forwarded through the first couple minutes of the game, but this was once again a start where ByuN decided to be a bit of a jerk. He successfully managed to block the most obvious location where a Nexus would be built, and rather than dealing with it by killing the NG bay with a bunch of probes, MaxPax decided to just immediately take another base vertical of that position. So it's a bit bold, because in general it's quite difficult to actually control all of this, but he decided to go for the safety shield battery, and we're once more headed on over towards the Twilight Council. And I'm assuming once we get up to 150 minerals here, MaxPax will begin, there it is, the good old blink. In the meantime, because of the engineering by block, ByuN has also delayed his own command center for a little bit. Cyclone is coming up. I always like the Cyclones. Cyclone's very good against especially Stargate builds. Now that's not something that MaxPax generally does, although he does mix it in every once in a while. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like MaxPax, though, is somebody who plays the game very, very rigidly. In the sense that, like, when he encounters X, he responds by doing Y or Z, right? And I'm fairly sure when you block his expansion in the natural, so when you block this base over here, and he is going into the third base as his very first expansion, he will never go for a Stargate. I'm pretty sure he always follows up with Twilight Council Robo. Maybe ByuN knows something I don't, though. Obviously, Cyclone is still handy. You can get rid of, well, for example, these pesky Adepts. But you're not going to have an easy time cleaning up Phoenixes. Or, for example, Oracles. But let's see. Still very useful, too, against these Stalkers, to be fair. Blink is still about 20 seconds away from finishing. There is a shield battery, though, and that shield battery is extremely good. Keep in mind, you can also use the energy recharge ability to recharge, for example, the battery. It is a nice way to get some extra healing in a pinch. Something pro gamers are very good at using. Okay. Once more. Good old Robo Bay. It's funny how we've seen a bit of a shift, though, as far as Colossus micro goes. Like, for years, it was all about never lose the Colossus. Make, like, 3 of them at most, but never lose the Colossi, because you only have, like, a 60-worker economy. These days, it's like, make 100 workers and just throw stuff at the opponent. It's a hell of a way to play. Protoss players taking a page out of the Zerg playbook. Don't care so much about cost-effective traits. Just try to smother them with stuff. Well, it didn't quite work in the previous game. ByuN a little bit too good for it. But it is kind of a funny shift, because I think in the previous game, we must have had like 15 Colossi or so, and every single one of them died. Well, once more, MaxPax's worst nightmare from the previous game is heading across. ByuN is gonna try and liberate a bunch of those poor probes. Need freedom? Here, take some freedom to the face! Okay, just one of them. Fair enough. Not the end of the world. Charge coming up right now as well. Once again. This time around, because of the beginning here for ByuN. Well, he is gonna send this army out once again. But it's a little bit later. Either that or the charge is a little bit quicker. This time around, if he does the exact same push as he did in the previous game, but charge is going to be finished, MaxPax is going to trash it. I'm actually a little bit afraid for this push. I mean, obviously it's still very losable. Like, as Protoss here, you can certainly still mess this up. But technically speaking, MaxPax has all of the tools to deal with this, and he should also have charge. And charge is just super good. Okay, forces another siege up. Wouldn't mind seeing ByuN go home now. I think he should go home. Like, he's been delayed like 3 times already. Okay, well, he's got a juicy position here on the high ground. Stalker wants to grab the vision. I think this is better, yeah. He wanted to park a Stalker onto the watchtower there to see what the Terran army was doing. Hallucinated Phoenix certainly is the more reliable choice there. Because those siege tanks were already looking at the Stalkers with a killer smile in their face. If they had a face. I don't know. Do they have faces? I'm assuming there's somebody piloting the siege tank. There might be multiple somebodies inside of the siege tank, actually. This is the right move, by the way. ByuN going home. Look, sometimes you just feel like a bit of a coward, right? You go back home, you're like, you know, it's the walk of shame. It's the right thing to do. Most of the time, actually. I am very good at committing to a fight that I know I'm going to lose before I ever start taking it. The smart thing to do is to not play like me, okay? Basically think to yourself, what would Loco do? And then do the opposite. That's one of the... Or maybe just copy what ByuN does here. When you've been delayed one too many times for those engagements, just back out of it. There's no real reason. Your opponent is certainly going to have a bunch of stuff. And charge slots are an absolute disaster when you get them onto the siege tanks at this point. Okay. ByuN, obviously not committed to an all-in or anything. If you're committed to an all-in, well, then I guess you have sealed the deal. Now, though, MaxPax is going to be able to take out a similar fight on the other side of the map. It's once again the good old triple Colossi. He is going into a 4th Nexus. Those Colossi, man, they deal so much damage. There's a handful of Vikings available, but not a whole lot of Stalkers. And this arc here by ByuN is really lovely, mitigating a ton of the splash damage. Still, though, it's a dangerous dance. Bunch of Zealots going around the site. MaxPax is always obnoxious with these Zealot run-bys. Is there a prism anywhere? I don't see one. Oh, there is a prism somewhere. Okay, it's over here, just reinforcing the army. Usually, he tries to send it into the main base and warp in some Zealots there. Not so easily done on Aydala, so we're just using it for reinforcements instead. Good hold so far, though, by ByuN. Excellent hold. Okay. +2. Just about to finish up for Max. 4th Nexus is already done. Pro production has begun for that expansion. And I'm assuming... Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see a pretty quick 5th as well. And we're once more going to go and play the good old Gateway Man style. Gateway Man. Always my favorite hero. Superhero, that is. Growing up. Is it a Stalker? Is it a Zealot? Is it an Adept? It's Gateway Man. Gateway Man! Saturday morning cartoons in the Netherlands are wild. Anyway. He needs to be careful, though, that he doesn't get too crazy. Or a little bit too far ahead of himself, because there's still a massive Terran army. And ByuN obviously won that previous engagement, so he is smelling blood. Going in around the site. Gotta respect the Colossi, though. How many Vikings are there? There's still 6 remaining. Stalkers are trying to target them down. Colossi are dealing a ton of damage in the meantime. Zealots also charging through. Siege tank not sieged up. Nice micro on the Vikings, but that's really about it. I mean, I don't want to criticize ByuN too much, but he has taken a few too many losses during this engagement. Single Disruptor now also available, just to be a nuisance. And to celebrate the, well, victory in that particular engagement, the Gateway Man is taking a 5th Nexus. Now, look, this is an aspiring Gateway Man. Maybe the original plan was to be a Gateway Man, but we've now transitioned towards more gases over here on this new base, as well as a 2nd robo facility. Some days, Gateway Man, well, he gets countered. Ghosts coming up. ByuN building up the 4th command center over at the Golden Mineral Line. We'll probably see a planetary here, and it's very reminiscent, actually, of Killer Smile with these ramps over here and orbital. ByuN, really? All right. Well, I think that should be a planetary, because it's very similar to Killer Smile, you know, where we had the planetary being the real hero in most of those fights. Orbital command makes it much more easy, at least, to push in. Okay, barracks 6, 7, and 8. We've got the +1 air attacks researching here as well for ByuN. +2/+2 coming up as well for the Terran. +3 in the meantime here for Max. And he also fires up the +2 research as we are having a look inside of the main. Both players still dancing in the middle of the map. As there's now a bunch of Widow Mines set up. The rocks in the middle have already been bled out, of course. And then also, likewise, we're starting to work on some of the rocks in the middle of the map, creating a lot more maneuverability here. Obviously, it benefits Marines and Marauders, but likewise, it also benefits the Zealots. Okay, ByuN inviting his opponent to an engagement. Ultimately, though, he has to run away. Only a single medevac with this army. Just barely slithers away. How many medevacs are we on? We do have 6. Okay. Yeah, they're all here with a small group of units instead. As MaxPax takes the far bottom right. Kind of cheeky. Vikings going around the site, hoping that they may just one day encounter a random war prism that's trying to come in. ByuN purposefully leaving a little bit of space north of the sensor tower. Just to, if you look at the minimap, just to kind of lull Protoss into a false sense of security. Here we go, though. 2 massive Protoss armies trying to see if they can sandwich this entire Terran force. Only about half of the units tried to come in, as ByuN was using the other half to try and sandwich the sandwich. Who's the bread? Who's the sandwich meat? It's hard to say. Ooh, that was a crazy fight, but MaxPax took that brilliantly, taking a massive advantage after that. Yeah, ByuN tried to flank the flanker. He wanted to turn the flanker into the flanky, but it turns out he, as the flanky, was already flanked. Pretty wild. Most of the medevacs right now looking quite exposed, actually, because there's just not a whole lot of units on the ground. No planetary on that high ground also made that fight a whole lot easier. Okay. SCV's trying to see if they can potentially help out by soaking up some of the damage. Decent Nova over there, but of course with the latest patch, those Marauders no longer get one shot, but it does not matter. Enough supplemental damage seals the deal for Max. Next up, we find ourselves on Scentworm. It's the map with the chicane in the middle of the map. I heard there's a Formula 1 circuit over here in the building, dude. It's gonna be incredible. I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, so far, no shenanigans here. MaxPax going Adept into Sentry. Fair enough. I've become a big fan of the Sentry first builds lately. I think they're a lot of fun, but they're also a little bit risky against any early game shenanigans. And let's be real, ByuN, he does not shy away from a little bit of early game shenanigans. So far, though, he is going into, okay, much quicker Marine production, and then a second barracks on the back of this too. So this basically means that he's not going to have any real factory aggression, although obviously he could make like a Cyclone or 2 as well, but he's going to be focusing a lot more on some Marine shenanigans here. We're not going to see any sort of Banshees, we're not going to see all too much variety, and this is why I really like the very quick Sentry builds, because you can scout everything. Yeah, MaxPax is doing a little bit of sightseeing on the other side of the map. Ooh, and because of it, so he's reading this as a siege tank push. Because of this, he's gone straight into charge. So this is gonna make his zealots get longer legs or something, I don't really know. But suddenly they can run a little bit faster. In Brood War, it's called like leg enhancements, isn't it? For the Citadel of Adun upgrade, the leg enhancements. They called it charge for StarCraft 2. Leg enhancements is way cooler, let's be real. Anyway, Hallucinated Phoenix Scout is going to continue everything. And it's going to allow Protoss full vision of exactly what's going on the other side of the map. And vision in StarCraft is basically everything. Honestly, in any RTS. One of the discussions you see all the time on the internet is what unit is better than what other unit, right? Like those are discussions that players will have all the time. Like, what do I do for this? What sort of unit do I build in X situation? But honestly, there's a lot of things. Like, for example, scouting information and unit speed that are a lot more difficult to quantify in an RTS game, but they're so incredibly important. Like, at this point, ByuN knows nothing The only reason that he knows there's a Protoss out there is because he has seen those hallucinated phoenixes flying around. But that's really about it. It sounds a bit silly, of course, but he's completely in the dark, whereas his opponent knows everything. Now, knowledge is power, but you know what else is power? Marines. And there's a hell of a lot of them already. Stimpak is going to finish up in a moment. There will not be any medevacs out just yet. So any Stimpak used is going to cost basically like 20% of ByuN's own army. But if you can hit it at the perfect moment, he can deal an awful lot of damage. Already though. Now with charge being done, we're gonna go into the Robo Bay. So MaxPax is gonna be building up the Colossi in just a moment. Settling in for a single Immortal for now. We'll probably see a Immortal then into a Colossus. This is one of the awkward times in this this matchup where sometimes these two things don't line up perfectly, but Max is doing a pretty good job. Bit late actually on the extra pylon here. The main problem is the Colossus timing, so you need to get that Colossus started ASAP. The fact that he's a bit late on this extra pylon does slow down the Colossus production now. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Not the end of the world. I mean, as far as supply blocks go, that was still decent, but look at this. We're pulling the boys. Yes! We're going for another adventure to the other side of the map! What, you run out of Marines? Well, 2 Zealots to start off this little engagement. Colossus slightly delayed. Decent bit of energy on the sentries, but not a ton? No way, Max. That is not gonna happen. This is before ByuN has even triggered his Stimpak. +1, by the way, also seconds away from finishing. It's a major damage boost improvement for those Marines, and that Nexus is just super dead. Okay, finally a Colossus is out, but the Nexus is already down. Ooh, he's trying to go for missile turrets. Those will, of course, hit up. Honestly, I think this is going to be really difficult to hold. Maybe with some decent force fields or something, but he has no energy. Energy recharge is actually on cooldown, so he did previously use it. It's basically 1 Immortal, 1 Colossus, 1 Sentry, then 1 Stalker, and 1 Adept, and then a bunch of Zealots. That's it. We make 1 of everything. ByuN's just making a whole lot of Marines and Siege Tanks. Now, of course, ByuN is also losing a lot of mining in the meantime at home. So he's slow pushing this in. While this is going on, he's not mining a whole lot. So income advantage heavily in favor of MaxPax. So ByuN has put himself on a timer. Second Colossus is here. He cancels the shield battery just to make sure that the Colossus can actually walk backwards. Bunker production is going to continue, and this is one hell of a slow push here for ByuN. Probes get pulled away as well. You know what we need to fight SCVs? Probes! So many Marines available though. Colossi 1 gets targeted. Colossus number 2 also goes down. The Immortal so far, but no longer. Brilliant game here by ByuN. It's a cheeky all-in. But hey, it's a best-of-5 series. You gotta bring those out. Playing predictably every single match? Not generally the way to go. GG. Next up. Match point here for ByuN on El Dorado. Seems like he enjoyed the game previously quite a bit. Wouldn't be surprised if we see another barracks here in a moment, but we'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what his weapon of choice is going to be. We're not starting off with a Reaper, though. Much like in the previous game, we're just going straight into Jimmy, and then more of his buddies. Twilight Council in the meantime on the other side of the map. MaxPax just did not quite get enough units out to really deal with that army. It's little things mostly, though. Ooh. Jimmy's going in for the hug of death. But 1 Jimmy for 1 Adept. Oh. PP, thank you. Go, go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay. By the way, I had somebody confused in my YouTube comment section recently. PP does not mean that he has to go pee. No. It's pause, please. Although maybe he had to pause, but that would be a really weird timing. Like 2.5 minutes or so into a game. That would be a very strange timing to be pausing. Especially right after losing the Adept. Generally, it's something silly like, my music stopped playing, or somebody is at my door, or, I don't know, my delivery came in, or whatever. Whatever it is. Technically, by the way, you can unpause as the opponent. So even though anybody can pause, anybody can also unpause. So it's not really, I mean, obviously not done in tournament games when you play against people that you know. But if you pause the game in a multiplayer match against a random guy on the ladder and you go AFK for a few minutes, the odds of them unpausing by the time that you came back, yeah, greater than 0. Let's just leave it at that. So once more, we're going into the good old barrack style. Yep, no scouting, no information, none of that. ByuN, he has seen an adept. He's made a cyclone here too, so he's just being a little bit of a nuisance, but he's mostly just doing a similar strat as what he was doing in the previous game. We'll have to see if he decides to pull the boys again. Certainly could. MaxPax going into a third Nexus. He's building Blink this time around. So in the previous game, he decided to go into Charge first. Didn't really help him out all too much in that big engagement. Curious to see if he's going to do a very similar approach once more. If we're going to go into a Robo Bay or what exactly the plan is. Because these attacks are always going to be sketchy. ByuN actually doesn't know what's going on, so he's building a bunker. Always feels a bit funky when you're basically preparing to go for a giant attack. Maybe even pull the SCVs again, but then at the same time, you also don't really have the army out yet. So it is going to be charged after Blink. Siege tank here gets scouted. Nice scan right there by ByuN. ByuN knows the timing at which this unit arrives on the other side of the map, and he was looking for it, even though it's only a tiny little blur. This is one of the downsides of having great macro. When you have great macro, your units also always pop on the other side of the map at the same time. Yeah, it's a real issue. If you have terrible macro and your observers always show up half a minute late, then it's much more likely that it's actually going to live. Which is a very weird dichotomy in StarCraft. But anyways, Phoenix going in around the side here to give some more vision. MaxPax is thinking about being aggressive, but I really don't think he should. If he jumps in, he is going to be in for a nasty surprise. This is not a map where you can blink into the main base and then easily kill Stimpack or combat shields or anything like that. So those Stalkers are mostly just here right now to try and delay whatever sort of attack is coming across. It's going to be a load. Will we build or do we bring Rudder? Yep, the boys once again. Much like the previous game, we're doing it once more. Let's see. He's got an awful lot of army. And this is very similar to the previous match. Now, there's no Robo Bay, and there is Blink. He's also just got way more production than what he had in the previous match. Still, though, it's 59 workers versus 41. ByuN does not get slowed down anymore by sieging up the tanks when he's got this many units. The force fields have to be sharp. He needs to slow down this attack in whatever way he can. Yeah, okay, sharp-ish. A little bit of overlap, though, and the siege tank shells already have taken care of a lot of those units. This is one hell of an attack. If you're a Terran player on the ladder, this is the type of build that's very difficult for Protoss to deal with. It's manageable, but even though MaxPax saw this coming in from a mile away, he's now getting walled out of his own natural expansion. ByuN is just building half of his infrastructure now on the other side of the map, while pumping out as many Marines as he can. And he might not be mining with a ton of workers, but he's killed the Robo facility. And very soon, I mean, MaxPax needs to make a decision. He can't really fight this. He needs to go around the site. Alternatively, though, the Marines can just sit inside of the bunkers, while the rest of the reinforcements are dealing with whatever they can. Okay. Oh my god. Well, that's not it, Max. No way. GG. Lovely aggression here in the final 2 games of this series by ByuN. I mean, you could certainly call it cheese. You can certainly call it dedicated pressure. But it is very clear that at the very least for MaxPax today, it was extremely difficult to hold.